This time I'd like to call the National Board of Education work session to order. I will entertain a motion to approve the adoption of the agenda. Motion by Mr. Jenkins. I have a second.
Second.
Lane. Second by Lane. Done. Motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. 2019-2020 audit presentation.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lamb, just a couple quick things. You know, we're supposed to do roll call votes since this is a remote meeting, virtual meeting number 1, 2.
Dr. Ellis, all of you are doing well. Each of you got a bound copy of the audit report.
You're not here.
All right, we're going to be going over just a few pages out of the report this evening. I always point out on page of the report, our audit opinion letter.
Franklin.
And it is a unmodified opinion, which is exactly what the board wants to receive. Basically means that we feel as though all the numbers in the report are reliable and free from any sort of material misstatement. The audit includes a lot of confirmation testing. We confirm cash balances with banks. We confirm significant revenues and receivables with Ashe County, Edgecombe County. Confirm revenues with the Department of Public Instruction for State Public School Fund, federal grants, child nutrition. We make sure that all of these revenues, cash balances, all reconcile back to the board's records. We perform a significant amount of analytical testing and also pulling payroll and general disbursement transactions. And all of this testing goes into verifying that we feel the financial statements are reasonably stated. The first section of the report on pages 3 through 9 is called the management discussion and analysis section. I don't plan to go into any detail on that section, but I just wanted to point out that this section does provide a good narrative overview of the financial statements. It discusses current year operating results in comparison to prior year results, and also has some tables in there comparing current year and prior year results. If you have any trouble understanding the financial statements.
Yes. I think we just fixed this and I'll have him do the roll call.
All right, thank you.
We could not hear them. They were speaking to us. Rod needs you to call before you get started. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just a couple things. I mean, again, I'm remote and some other people. I mean, if we could just establish you all as participating in the meeting, that would be useful. And then, you know, just again, remember that, I mean, that was a unanimous vote, but, you know, at least going forward, let's remember that we have to do roll call votes.
Okay. All right, let's get through the roll call again now. Don Bachavis. Dean Evans is here. Chris Bissett. Bill Sharp. Lank Dunn.
Here.
Ricky Jenkins. Reggie Silver.
Present.
LaShonda Washington.
Here.
Evelyn Bullock.
Here.
Deronda Bullock.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, we're good? Yeah. Okay.
So is that 8 people?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, let's turn over to page 12 and we'll look at the district's ending fund balances in the governmental funds. We'll be focusing on the first column, which is your general fund, and all of these balances are as of June 30th, 2020. And at the top, cash and cash equivalents at June 30th were $6,891,353. And there in the middle of the page, the district had liabilities of $3,083,485. If you take your total assets, which were $7,323,374 there at the top, minus liabilities of $3,083,000, you get the district's ending fund balance, which is the next to last number that you see in that first column, of $4,239,889. And this amount represents an increase of $970,000 over the fund balance that was reported at June 30th, 2019. So fund balance grew last year by $970,000. And you can see that the district had unassigned fund balance, meaning it's available for appropriation if the district wanted to use it to balance its budget, of $3,714,939. And that represents about 16% of the district's general fund expenditures. And we feel that's a good level of unassigned fund balance for a district this size to have. With the early spring closure for schools for COVID-19, the district had more funds that were available in state this year and was able to create some cost savings in local by shifting some of those expenses over to state, which was the primary reason for the growth in fund balance. And we saw the same kind of growth, we've seen the same kind of growth at most of the districts that we audit this year. We have just been trying to caution boards that it's likely going to be just a one-time cost savings that you experience because of the COVID-19. I think with all the uncertainty in the economy right now, it's a good thing to have some extra cash and fund balance reserves on hand to weather any kind of potential tax revenue shortfalls that could be coming our way if federal, state, local tax revenues happen to fall short, given all of the shutdowns that we've been experiencing. And if you read across on the fund balance line, you can see that state public school fund and federal grants, neither one of those funds carry fund balance. The district spends those monies the year that they're received, the way it's required to be done. Restricted revenue fund had an ending fund balance of $2,460,268. And this fund balance is primarily restricted by both internal and external sources for various grants and programs that operate within the district. Next line over, capital outlay had a fund balance of $549,715, and that amount is restricted for capital outlay purposes. And the individual schools funds had an ending fund balance of $1,231,527, and that is the combined fund balance of all of the schools together. So that includes all your elementaries, middle, and high schools. And those monies are restricted for each individual school's use. So I think overall the district's got very good fund balance levels as of June 30th. It appears to be in good financial condition in these governmental activities funds. Any questions on this page before we move on?
Any board member have any questions?
Okay, let's turn over to page 58 and we'll look at the child nutrition program. And this schedule shows the revenues and the expenditures of the child nutrition program for the year ended June 30th, 2020. And if you go down to the last line, about 3/4 of the way down, that's got 3 columns. It's the net change in fund balance line. In the middle column, you can see the program had an increase in fund balance for the year of $512,612. And in the previous year, the program reported a loss of $423,000. So you had a year-over-year improvement of $935,000 in the school nutrition program. Now this improvement in profit over the prior year is due largely to the district being able to shift some child nutrition program costs over to the state public school fund and pay them from a federal coronavirus relief grant that the district received last year through the Department of Public Instruction. Cash balances in the program were $2.9 million at year end. And the program continues to pay full indirect cost each year, as well as its share of workers' comp insurance expense. And this indirect cost goes into the district's local bank account and is used to help offset utilities, administrative salaries, and other overhead costs that the district incurs in allowing the child nutrition program to operate within the district. We still go to quite a few districts where the child nutrition programs are not able to pay indirect costs. So it's a good extra revenue source that y'all have coming in from child nutrition, getting that indirect cost. I think last year you received, I think it was $395,000 is what y'all collected. I think overall the program continues to be in excellent financial shape as of June 30th. We would just recommend that you continue to monitor operations, because if it had not been for that $930,000 grant that you received in state, if you back that off, then the program's back to maybe a loss situation as it was the previous year. So it's got plenty of cash, can go a lot of years with that level of cash. But you'd rather see it breaking even and paying full indirect costs. That would be the ideal scenario.
What are some changes we can make to make that happen?
Well, it would just be a matter of either increasing revenues, decreasing expenditures, or some combination of that. Just more or less just analyzing the operations and trying to figure out what can you do to get closer to it. With everything districts are experiencing right now with COVID-19, trying to feed kids in this unusual way, it's really a hard time to try to zero in on what you can do to make improvements. So
It'll probably be a bad time to increase lunch prices.
it sure would. Yeah. Again, y'all got plenty of cash to get by for a lot of years. But y'all were very profitable a few years back, and it kind of slacked off a little bit. But again, it's y'all got a long way to go before you be in bad shape in the child nutrition program.
I think that came about when the government tried to tinker with the recipe.
That's right. Yeah, sure it is.
Yep.
Well, so just for clarification, on page 58, I see that I don't see the dollars for last year. You quoted last year's losses.
Yeah, they're not on this page, but last year the program had a loss of $423,000. That same spot.
So you said there was a net shift of over $900,000.
And the district, what happened was the district received some special grant money.
From COVID.
That's right.
And how much funding was that?
I think it was right at $935,000. It was almost the exact amount of the shift of the year-to-year change in profitability.
So when that's stated and what you just said, if that was the case, we would have saw funding would have been lower, broke even, or close in negative.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what I told you last year was y'all had lost money. Basically, you lost the amount of indirect costs that you paid over to local. Had you not paid indirect costs to local a year ago, I think you would have broke even.
And
That's kind of where you're at right now.
Because it didn't marry up to what we were last year.
That's right. Because of that COVID money coming in, you ended up looked a lot better this year.
It comes back to the point we were saying, how we manage that process, because COVID won't last forever.
Again, it's kind of a hard time to really dig into the program and try to problem solve right now, though.
Have lunch forms, kids on in the building. One of the things we do, free reduced lunch application.
That's right. All right, starting on page 59, the very next page is the compliance section of the audit. And page 59 is the beginning of 3 letters that we issued relating to the testing that we perform over the board's internal controls and state and federal grant funding that flows through the district. And pages 65 and 66 actually provide a good 2-page summary of these letters. And those 2 pages show that all 3 of these letters are unmodified reports we just received. And we did have one compliance finding that we reported on page 67. And this is a state public school fund compliance finding pertaining to the state salary exception report that the district receives every year. Salary exceptions are not uncommon to see in audits that we perform of various LEAs across the state. They typically result from a lot of times efforts at year end to try to shift employees from local to state or federal to state to try to use up all of your position allotments. And sometimes they pop up for other various reasons, licensing issues and things of that nature. But in any event, at the end of the year, you had $28,000 of outstanding salary exceptions that needed to be resolved. And I will point out that's a great improvement over the prior year. I think last year y'all had outstanding salary exceptions of 128,000. So we're not even required to report exceptions less than 25,000. So you're almost below where we would have even had to have reported it as a finding. So again, I think y'all made great improvement there. Just need to try to clean that up a little bit better when June rolls around, so that those exceptions are down below that 25,000 limit, and ideally have them all cleaned up if you can by June 30th.
Plus, Dr. Ellis, can we track that on a regular basis or maybe a quarterly basis just to see where we stand, how we look?
Kind of, sort of, but when you start shifting the money, Ms. Jared, you want to explain that a little bit?
Right.
In your term.
We're having to monitor the allotments monthly, and that's what we're doing now monthly instead of waiting till the end of the year as past practice. So we're trying to make sure that the exceptions, that payroll exceptions are handled from between payroll periods, which is a good tool for the payroll processors as well.
So with that said, you're doing it now. You're just being proactive.
Right. We're doing it during the year as opposed to waiting till the end of the year to try to clean everything up.
Thank you.
It's a constant moving target as you bring in new employees during the year. I mean, it's constantly,
But as long as we're tracking it on
That's
a regular
right.
basis, that's what counts.
That's exactly right. Now, there was one other finding that we reported in the previous year. If y'all remember back, we reported a finding related to various budget violations, and tag your report that we had no such findings in this year's audit report. All the budget issues that we had cited last year, all those were cleared up for the current year audit, and it's reported as such in the compliance section of the report. So, anyone have any questions on this item? And we did issue a separate management letter with various internal control items for improvement. It's a separate 2-page letter. There in the middle, it mentions bank account reconciliations in bold. And it's not inside the report. It was just a separate. I think you should have had a copy of it in front of your book. Okay. And these are just items that we noted during the audit that were not considered significant, but just internal control areas where improvements could be made, just routine areas. And we've discussed these at length with Ms. Jarrett and Dr. Ellis. And it's our understanding that they've been addressed, steps have been taken to address each one of these items. And I didn't really plan to go into any detail on them unless someone had a specific question. Again, none of them are really significant, nothing that would cost the district any funds. Again, they're just routine internal control type items that we try to point out anywhere that would go where maybe some improvements could be made.
So I'm looking at 2 sheets here.
Yeah, okay.
Which one?
It's the one that's got the bank account reconciliations in the middle in bold. Yeah, the other letter that you received is what we call a required communications letter. And this is just a routine letter that covers some items that we're required to communicate with you regarding the audit. And that is just a letter, basically letting you know we had this we had to go over these details if you'd like to. The pleasure is the board.
That's one question about, we can have a significant deficiency, and for you to say significant.
That is the finding that we talked about related to the salary exceptions.
That was a salary exception.
That's the salary exceptions. And that, again, that was an item we reported in the previous year audit. And we had it again this year. It did decrease in significance, but we did still have to report it. And I would imagine that'll be gone for next year's audit.
I just want to make sure that was clear, considering it said state programs versus salary deficiency.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think overall, from what I'm seeing regarding some things that Dean just referred to and how we made tremendous progress over the last year, I think the financial team, Dr. Elder, deserve accolades for the outstanding work doing this. I think your report shows that. And I've seen this over the last 7 or 8 years. I think this is probably one of the better ones I've seen.
Yeah, it is. It is. I know, a year ago, y'all were kind of uneasy about your financial situation, and last year turned out fine. And then this year, y'all built up fund balance some more. And I think the district is actually in a good fund balance situation right now. So, we were real happy with what we saw all around from an audit standpoint. Again, you got a few little areas to clean up, but that's normal. We have that everywhere we go.
I did also include in simply a response to the audit comments. Sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to make sure you all received the responses to the audit comments. There were 4 audit comments that Mr. Smith just spoke about. And in each of those responses, it includes the steps that we're taking to make sure we implement processes and procedures so that these are handled and resolved this year. I don't know if anyone had a chance to review, but
Those responses back in the book.
excuse me.
In the back of the book.
They're in assembly, I'm not sure. I'll just go quickly through them. The number 1 was related to the bank account, and past practice, we had reconciled the bank statements as was noted in the audit, but we also carried the explanations for the variances instead of creating the journal entries, which adjust the financial statement. And what I have said to everyone is that we are now going to make sure on a monthly basis, the journal entry that corrects the financial information is done, which will totally complete that reconciliation. The second audit comment refers to the testing that was done to make sure that we're in compliance with the state salary schedule. And that's for those individuals in central office that that are, the contract that they have has a clause that references compensation. And because of that clause, it says for services rendered pursuant to this contract, the employee shall be paid in accordance with the state salary schedule and any applicable local supplement. That dictates that we have to follow the state salary schedule to the T. What we have done in the past was those individuals that were tested, the full salary was paid out of state. Although because of their salary, it may have been a little higher than what the maximum was for state. So what we have done for that particular position, we have now moved it to local. And in we've also moved people out of local to be able to move that particular position in local. We moved people to state. So we resolved that. The third finding was a paraprofessional employee was tested to see if his credentials were supported his being employed in a Title I funded school. And the documentation showed that the person was not eligible to work in that school for Title I. And since that time, he has been removed from that position, and is work is being in place to see about finding other employment within the district for him. And then the last one is in regards to the school, a school where the cash controls were not in place. And as far as the number of days cash was held before depositing, I will say best business practices were not in place as reflected in the audit comment. And we will be meeting with that particular school to make sure to go over the policies again and make sure if there's a need for information to be shared with not just the treasurer, but those individuals in the school, because it's those people who are bringing the information or the funds to the treasurer sometimes that causes the delay. So we want everybody in the school to understand best practices and what they need to do to make sure they're in compliance going forward. So those are our responses. And if you don't have a copy, I will make a copy available to you to be applied, kept with your audit report.
So, Mr. Chair, on the last item you talked about, cash balance in schools and so forth. Are we doing an internal audit on just randomly for those schools for look at the for those cash values? Do we audit that internally?
We do during the year. Actually, Mr. Smith and his team come out.
Yeah, not their team, but an internal audit. Maybe just you send somebody from your group just to audit that school.
Right. We I do have a person on my team that actually works with the schools, and she does. I don't think she went out last year, but we are planning to do some random testing. And actually, she has conversations with the treasurers regularly to make sure they have the information that they need and they have the support that they need.
So let me just clarify that. The question is, do someone from your staff walk into Red Oak Middle School and says, I want to audit your books?
No, we don't. Not at this time.
Do you think that would be an ideal concept for us to do based on what you're finding here? Because if you don't know, it's just like a surprise from a guest or visit or whatever. If you don't know someone's coming, you can always have your book scale, I would think.
Well, given the audit results that we've just had, I don't think we have a major problem with the treasurers and what they're doing. We do have a session with them at the beginning of the year, and we may need to have another session because sharing the processes that need to be in place. But right now, I don't think we need to do pop-ups, especially given where we are with COVID. But I think we have the tools to make sure they have what they need and follow policies and procedures.
And I'm always, I don't tell the superintendent how to do your role, but pop-up audits to me has always been helpful. And it's not necessarily doing this COVID situation, because an audit is just giving your books. Let me look at your books. And it's not a matter of sitting down with the individuals, but you having someone just review to make sure they're up to speed.
We can look into that.
I think that will cover up, that will take care of some of the stuff that you're addressing.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I speak for a second, please?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Silver.
Thank you. I think perhaps I want to piggyback on what Bill just said. I think it probably would be a good idea to do quarterly visits, maybe every 3 months or so, maybe go in and just do some virtual pop-up stuff from the standpoint of just making sure they can have good Zoom meetings to make sure they don't have any questions and make sure they're on top of stuff from that perspective.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda, the audit presentation.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mr.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Can we actually approve this in a work session? I thought we needed to do this in the regular board meeting. I may be wrong. So I'm just questioning.
Where's Rob at?
Ron,
Well-
can we approve this work session?
Well, you've historically not approved items in the work session. You've agreed to put it on like as a consent item at the next meeting, or, you could put it as a consent item or add it to the agenda for approval tonight at the, in the regular meeting, but you have not otherwise taken action to approve items in a work session, at least that I can remember anyway.
Okay,
It's really more of an informational report. You really,
Okay.
there's nothing
Yeah, I mean, it's, most boards kind of vote to accept the audit, in that sense, or whatever the motion would be. But I still think probably to be more consistent with your practice, I guess the motion out of here would be to add it, to the next meeting to accept it, however you want to handle that.
we can approve the presentation tonight here, and then we can put it on the next meeting for approval of the December meeting. We have a motion by Mr. Sharp to accept the information for the audit, second by Mr. Silver. Ms. Chavis.
Yes.
Ms. Chavis here?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Bizzard.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Mr. Dunton.
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
Mr. Silver.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Ms. E. Bullock.
Yes.
Ms. S. Bullock.
Yes.
Motion unanimous. And Rob, we do have some more people to add that came into the meeting. We're now 100%.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good job.
Reopening plan update. Dr. Ellis.
So at this time, we thought during the work session, we could present the reopening plan update. If you had any particular questions, we could ask them now in the work session, and then if you wanted us to present it tonight, we can, or you could approve it here, you could vote on it in the full session without us doing it again. That's gonna be your pleasure. So at this time, the reopening plan update, I believe, Mr. Farrell, you are first.
No, I think I can manage it. Good afternoon. So the slide that you have in front of you shows the total cases by age. And this would represent Nash County positive cases by age. And so I would like for us to focus on the numbers 0 through 14 and 15 through 19. As you can see, with the 0 to 14 age group, it's about 6% of the total cases. And the 15 through 19 age group is about 7% of the total cases, which if you add those two together, thank you, ma'am, would be about 13% of the total positive cases in Nash County. To the right, left, or up? You got it, Jermaine?
No, but I
Okay.
can.
All right. Thank you. So Edgecombe County positive cases As you can see, they report theirs a little bit different than the way Nash County does. And so what we have here, and I think Dr. Catalano actually pulled this from the state website because Edgecombe County doesn't report theirs out the way that Nash County does. So she pulled this from the state website. And what you can see here is the age group between 0 to 17 is 10%. And then if you look at the ages 18 to 24, it's about 9%. Now, we are not certain what percentage of that 18 to 19 in the 18 to 24 age group is what. So we're just going to focus on the 0 to 17, which is about 10% of Edgecombe County's total positive cases. So this slide is, it shows Nash County, Edgecombe County, and the state of North Carolina. And what we're looking at is positivity rates. We're looking at the total number of positive cases. We're looking at the percent of total cases by age. And then, yes, the percent of total cases by age, excuse me. So for Nash County, positivity rate, 13%. This was as of October 30th. Total number of cases, 3,509. And as I said before, the 0 to 14 age group is about 6%, and the 15 to 19 age group is about 7%. Edgecombe County has 8.2% positive rate, 2,896 total cases. About 10% of their total cases are between the ages of 0 to 17. For the state of North Carolina, there's a 6% positivity rate, 276,692 positive cases, with 11% of those total cases being between the ages of 0 to 17. So the total number of staff and students who are currently quarantined, and when we talk about students being currently quarantined, we're referencing that they are either COVID-19 positive, or that they've had direct exposure to someone who is COVID-19 positive, or they are symptomatic, showing those signs, headaches, new loss of taste or senses, a new cough, things of those natures. And they've been advised to isolate at home for a specific number of days. So this slide that we're currently looking at, it represents our staff who are either tested positive, tested negative, have been quarantined, but are currently back at work, or they're still currently quarantined. So our total numbers, I don't know why I did that. I wanted to, thank you. Our total numbers from 8/10 to present, we have 73 individuals who have tested positive, staff members. If you're looking from 8/10 to 9/3 was 27, from 9/4 to 10/5 was 27, and the total from 10/6 to present is 19. And again, remembering that these numbers may increase because we've had some situations that have happened today. So that number probably is going to increase as for the 10/6 to present. 184 have tested negative. 8/10 to 9/3, 57. 9/4 to 10/5, 76, and 10/6 to present, 51. 277 total that have been quarantined but back to school or back to work, 54 from the 8/10 to 9/3 time frame. 9/4 to 10/5 time frame, we had 113, and 10/6 to present, 110. So when we look at the currently quarantined, you see that we have an NA there. And the reason why we've had NA there is because the currently quarantine column is a moving number. which is constantly having numbers added to it and deducted from it. All of our other numbers or columns are where numbers are just added to it. We're not deducting numbers from it, but with our currently quarantined, we're actually adding to and then deducting from as those individuals go back to work. So that's why when we look at the grand total, we have NA there. If you really wanted the total, then you would have to look at the grand total for individuals who are quarantined and back to school, and then look at the currently quarantined for this month, and that would give you the total of people who have been quarantined. So from 8/10 to 9/3, we had 44 who were currently quarantined. 9/4 to 10/5, 58, and 10/6 to present, we have 49 individuals who are currently quarantined. Looking at our student, yes.
Can I ask you a question now, or would you prefer we wait till the end of it?
You can ask now if you want to, Dr. Ellis.
Okay, can we go back to that previous screen? With what you said about the numbers for today, would change that 19, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much would that change that 19? What would that number be? Correct now.
I'm not sure. I do know that we had one bus driver who was tested positive, and the teacher. So I'm estimating 2 more, so that would be 21.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So the current slide that we're looking at is our students. And we have our students broken out. As you can see, we have Plan B and on-site. Again, Plan B being those students who are reporting to our schools. On-site would be students who may have come, who may not have been in Plan B, who may be virtual students, but for some reason they've had to come in and test, or may have something to do with athletics, or they may be students who are virtual, but somehow we've been notified that those students have tested positive. So for our grand total for students who've tested positive from 8/10 to present is 32. In Plan B, 8/10 to 10/5 was 5. Others on site from 8/10 to 10/5 was 16. From 10/6 to present, Plan B is 6. And 10/6 to present on site is 5. Total number of students who have tested negative is 27. So if we're looking at 8/10 to 10/5 Plan B, 1 student tested negative. 8/10 to 10/5 on site, we had 11 students test negative. So Plan B, 10/6 to present, we had 11 who have tested negative. And on site from 10/6 to 20, we've had 4 who have tested negative. The number of students who have been quarantined and are currently back at school or back at least doing virtual learning, they're not attending in person, would be 71. Plan B from 8/10 to 10/5 is 6. On site for 8/10 to 10/5 would be 2. Plan B 10/6 to present would be 36. And on-site 10/6 to present would be 27. Those number of students who are currently quarantined, Plan B, 8/10 to 10/5, we have 12. On-site from 8/10 to 10/5, we have 24. Plan B, 10/6 to present, and that present represents as of 10/29, we have 68. And on-site, 10/6 to present, being 10/29, we have 3. Any questions for me?
You got a little side, what are you doing? Yeah, I got a few questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, so if we go back to, the comparison with Nash, Edgecombe, and State,
Yes, sir.
and what I'm finding, what I'm showing here is the State and Edgecombe use the 0 to 17 age groups. Nash County uses 0 to 14 and 15 to 19.
Yes, sir.
And this might be a question for you, Ms. Keller. Is there a reason why they break that, especially if the data is coming from the state the same? Can we sort of request or ask for them to be comparatively the same that we share? So at least you have the data all this consistently?
So, Nash County, when they actually report their data to us, this is how Nash County breaks their data out. Edgecombe does not break their data out in terms of positivity rate or a breakdown of the age groups. We actually have to go to the state's website and pull that information for Edgecombe and for the state, which is why you see a difference in the way it's represented for Nash County and the way it's represented for Edgecombe and the state.
So you pulled the Edgecombe and the state yourself?
From the state's website.
So it's conceivable you can pull Nash County from the state website?
That for some reason, there was a delay in update of the information because Nash County reports, what they send to us was different than what the state has.
Just make sure I'm clear, you understand the question I'm asking. You can pull data from the state for Nash County instead of getting Nash County's data.
But it's incorrect based on what Nash County is
submitted to the state or submitted to you?
Submitted to the state, what the state has.
Okay.
It's not, it's actually, it's delayed. So this is data that is as of Friday, that is. So there's like a lag time between when it comes from Nash to the state and the state processes it and it gets put on the state dashboard. So this is much more recent data from Nash County. It's going to be the same on the state in 2 or 3 days from now. But that's why we chose to give you Nash County's data like it is.
And Nash
And
County
we can
usually
pull the data from the dashboard.
You know what I'm asking? What am I asking? Just to make sure we're on the same page.
You're asking why we chose to provide you Nash County's data in that way instead of the state data.
Okay.
Right?
Because it's comparable apples to apples. You see the same thing.
There's still,
and you don't have to break out. There's a couple slides you did it on, I think, right? So can you go to the next slide? Or
no, you're talking that one.
yeah. The one, I don't think so. Here.
It's those two because you're looking at the different ages.
Right.
So if you look at the one for Nash, you'll see the 0 to 14, whereas Edgecombe right now you're seeing the 0 to 17. But I mean, when they're getting the only data they can possibly get and they're trying to do the best they can by providing it to us in a timely manner, they're just doing what they can do best.
We actually,
It's not, we're not the people with the COVID cases. They're not being reported to us directly. So it's hard for us to get it from differing places.
I want to hear what she's going to make a point. I want to hear what she has to
yeah,
say.
so we could easily get you that information from the state dashboard. The reason we decided to also give you this
I understand.
instead is because the 0 to 14 is the age range that we have in schools right now, right?
That's fair.
And so it was a better breakdown when you look at it from the district or from the county level. And we've contacted Edgecombe to see if we could get the similar information from Edgecombe, but they don't even calculate it. They send it to the state and the state calculates it.
I do have one thing. Is there a way of getting the deaths of those age groups?
I want to say, is that in the information that they send out? I can check on it.
Just, it's not by age, it's just a total number of deaths.
On the part that now.
It doesn't do it by age, I don't believe.
Total.
I can look when I get back there.
I've seen it somewhere.
One other question. Can we go to the, I think, next to last couple slides, please? Yeah, that's fine. Go back, go to the next one. The other on-site totals, positive and negative. So you're saying you're doing that inside the school?
No, the on Plan B represents the students who are attending based on their plan, based on our Plan B reentry into school.
Right.
The on-site represents students who they may have been out for an athletic workout, or they may have come on, they may be a virtual student, but they came on campus to test. Or it may be a student who's virtual and we have been made aware that that particular student has tested positive.
Okay, so that's it. You were made aware they were tested positive.
They were not put in there.
That's the third column, it's not on that slide.
Okay, so let me correct myself. So for the on-site, it only represents those students who may have come on our campus that are in a virtual, they may be in a virtual setting, but they've come on our campus for testing. And in doing so, we found out that they were positive, or for students who are coming for athletic workouts and have tested positive.
So my question to you is, how do you know you were tested positive?
Because we're told that they have been tested
So
positive.
that's what I thought. And yet they're still allowed to come on campus.
So
We're just receiving
That's-
the info.
Let's do this. If you know someone's positive, why would you expose someone else to it?
sometimes kids come and they don't, just like adults, they don't realize that they are positive. Like we had a situation,
Exactly right.
like we had a situation where a student went to an event, did not realize that they had been in contact with someone who was positive. 2 days later, that kid tests positive. And so then you have to go back and contact trace, and that was when we had to remove like 12 or 13 kids.
And that's exactly what I want to hear. You found it out based on contact tracing.
Yes, sir.
So you didn't, there was nothing that you were doing on site to determine that, but through contact tracing.
Because when they came, because with most, if they're coming on our campus, they're still checking for fevers, they're still asking those questions. And so if a student passed the fever check, if they passed the question check, then we are assuming that. Sorry. We'll leave this here.
Good evening.
Evening.
This data is accurate as of 4:00 p.m. today, where I put in the last numbers. You will see that as of 4:00 p.m. today, we do not have any employees that are out on COVID leave. COVID leave is available for any employee who cannot telework and they have experienced COVID symptoms or has tested positive for COVID-19. Currently, we have 78 employees that are approved to telework as an accommodation. And employees who are approved to telework are those employees who are at increased risk for serious or severe illness. And that includes employees that are 65 years of age or older, employees of any age that has an underlying medical condition, any employee that cares for someone with an underlying medical condition, an employee that has tested positive for COVID-19, or an employee that has experienced COVID-19 symptoms and has been advised by a health professional to quarantine. Of those 78 employees that are currently teleworking, 55 of those are teachers, and of the 55, I've broken it down by elementary, middle, and high school. And we have 23 at the elementary level, 10 at the middle school level, and 22 at the high school level.
Ms. Pruitt,
Yes.
these people that are approved to telework, do they have to be approved through our HR, or does the principal approve that?
Both. For the medical conditions, they are approved by HR because they have to submit medical documentation. for those that have been advised by a nurse, or they are experiencing COVID symptoms and they may not come to work, or once they get to work, they have to leave, they've been approved by their principal. Any other questions?
And if they're approved to telework, that's 5 days a week, not 2 days a week, 3 days a week.
Yes.
Please.
So if they're approved to telework, it's 5 days a week, not 2 days a week, 3 days a week, come as they want. They're at home, either at school, right?
Right. The ones that we have approved, they are working remotely.
May I make a comment, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Silver.
I want to say thank you to our district for really caring about our employees. I have several friends that work in different districts in Eastern North Carolina, and they have not had this type of accommodation. One of my friends worked in another district, and she cares for her parents, and she's had a difficult time trying to do telework. So I want to say thank you to our district for really being concerned about our employees and trying to look out what's best for their families. That means a lot. Finish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good evening.
Evening.
Tonight I will share data relating to transition to Plan B for secondary students and updates on in-person versus remote learning as of Friday, October the 30th. So the first slide you see here is actually the current status in our schools. You can see it lists both, all three, elementary, middle, and high school. So as a total enrollment, we are still at 14,584. The total number of students we have in person right now in our schools are 4,132, which this puts it at around 28% of the district. Students that are in remote learning at this time is 10,452, which is around 71.67% of our students. And as you can see, our elementary schools, they are sitting at currently in person 4,037. That's 63% of the student body in the district. Our elementary, as far as remote, is 2,347. That's roughly 30.76%. Middle and high, of course, right now the majority are online. So you see us lower numbers at this point with the number in person. In middle school is 41, high school has 54 students. And then online, middle school is 3,448, and high school at this point is 4,657. It's okay. All right, this is our actual virtual academy enrollment. So I want to start off with the elementary. So right now we have 2,347 virtually enrolled at the elementary school, which is around 36.76%. I want to talk a little bit about middle and high school. These numbers that you see here are based off the most recent survey that we've taken. Before you saw it was a little higher, but right now, middle school, we're looking at 901 students, but I need to point out that around 977 students, roughly 28% of students still are remaining to be surveyed. High school, we're sitting at 1,381. There's still 1,176 students, roughly 25% of students that remain to be surveyed there. And the percentages are below for middle 25%, and that puts high school at around 29.3%. So in preparing to begin the transition to Plan B process, secondary schools, students were surveyed, both parents and students together. We also surveyed our staff and principals. We completed 6,047 surveys from our parents and students, and that all came from our staffs at each school level calling each parent, which was tremendous. And so the question we asked our students and parents were, Nash County Public School plans to transition to Plan B, January 6th for all middle and high school students. Do you intend for your child to return to school for in-person instruction or remain fully online through the remainder of the third 9 weeks, which would be March 16th, or the remainder of the school year, which would be May the 27th? We also surveyed our teachers and staff members and every one of our secondary principals. So if you can see, this next slide actually indicates the numbers we received, percentages we received from our staff and school principals. If you notice from middle school, the sample size was 6, which is we have 6 middle school principals. 16.67% said yes to the question, should the district pursue returning to in-person instruction before January the 6th? 83.33 said no. We surveyed 242 staff members, teachers and staff members in middle school. 12.9% said yes. 87.1% said no. Once again, the sample size for high school principals were all of our principals. 0% said yes, 100% said no. And then our high school staff, which was around 312 staff members, 16.1% said yes, and 83.9% said no. We thought it would be advantageous to talk through the calendar, what we have left for the remainder of this semester, since as we know that secondary students are on semesters, and kind of some of the obstacles or some of the things that we have to think about as moving forward through November and December. So as we see, it's circled there that we are now sitting in November the 2nd. And if you look at the calendar as of now, the white dates are actually open dates. Everything that has a color on it, either there's some testing going on, there's a holiday, or there's something happening during that time. So one thing we're looking at with these calendars is moving to something before January. One thing we could run into is possibly disruption because of holidays, because the 11th, we have a holiday coming up. Then at the end of November, you have Thanksgiving. And then of course, at the end of December, you have the Christmas break. We also are looking at the processes similar to the elementary schools. Our schools definitely need some time to be sure they're ready for students, to ensure that they have desks and things set, processes set, that the bus schedules are set. Their schedules have been sent out to students, so which would take, at least 2.5, 3 weeks to get that correct. We also are looking at the exams. If you look down on the 16th, I wanted to point out that that's when high school exams start on the 16th. Teachers start reviewing for exams around probably the 1st of December, getting ready for exams. And then we had the 16th through the 22nd is the window for exam days for high schools in December. And then of course we'll go out for Christmas break after that. I did want to point out, and I think you all know this, but I just want to point out this as well. Middle schools will change some classes starting in January when they come back from the Christmas break, which is electives. And then of course, high schools change all of their classes coming back in January. So if we can go to the next slide, I do want to share with you the percentages we found, with when we calculated And this is as of Friday, October the 30th at 2 p.m. We pulled these percentages. I think you can, hopefully you can see it. So this is actually listing all of our schools. N, of course, is the sample size. You can see beside each school, we do have a sample size that was taken from that school. The first part talks through the number of face-to-face students, what percentage said they would come back in January, and then the percentage of virtual are to the right. And I do want to remind that we still have, and they're working on this week, as a matter of fact, we do still have 977 to survey in middle school and 1,176 in high school. And then lastly, I did, as we talked about through, since we've started COVID and started talking through the secondary part of it, we said that we would offer our teachers PD to ensure that they are prepared to move back into a classroom. We have put together a series of PD for our teachers, started 2 weeks ago. Had 2 great sessions, 600 teachers per session. In each one of these on the 23rd and the 30th. They have been very well received and they have gone well. This week, just so you know, managing the blended classroom will be the next topic. And all these topics are to help our teachers to become familiar and to be comfortable when they move back into teaching a face-to-face and a virtual situation simultaneously. And that's the last slide.
One thing about the PD on the Fridays.
Yes, sir.
I know this might be some Fridays, I know that's a deep cleaning day.
Yes, sir.
But these sessions are taped, so teachers don't have to really look at them that Friday. They can look at them at a later date.
Well, we would like for them to be in person if possible, because they are having breakout rooms where they can have conversations, and that's where a lot of the learning comes from, is when they can talk to each other. And that's why the way we're designing them, so that they can do that. But in the end, yes, they will be taped at least 2 sessions per Friday, because we have 5 sessions, so that teachers have flexibility on that day. And they are taped where they can go back and look at those.
Any other questions? Thank you.
What I'm gonna do is, to wrap it up, it's obvious that the middle and the high school teachers and principals feel like they want to complete the semester. And I guess when you look at the calendar, since we have such a, we have shorter days in first semester than second, and it finishes so early. If you were to get middle school kids back in, they might be going 5 to 6 times because of the plan A and plan B. So I can understand where the teachers and the principals are coming from. They are nearing a semester end. So based on that survey and some of the data, that's why we've just recommended to start that January 11th, second semester for secondary, middle school, and high school. And you can tell here on the calendar, we get back on the 6th, we would start January 11th. Because when we did all the other plans, because you're gonna come back and we're gonna need those 3 days. First, high school's gonna need to finish because they're scheduling. Middle school will be scheduling for second semester as well. But the 11th would be a clean week. We could start everything on.
And Fridays are remote. Fridays are remote.
Right. Friday would be the remote day on the 8th.
So what are they gonna do on the 6th and 7th?
That's what I'm saying. 8th would be your K-5 would be, that's our remote day. So that would just be a day our teachers would be getting ready for second semester. Because you're only talking about, you would have one group go 2 days and then you would finish. So that's why we want to start it clean. January 11th would start fresh. Group A 1 week, and we start Group B like we did with K-5.
Okay, so no kids are going anywhere on the 6th and 7th. They're just.
Not secondary, no. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so what that would be is, yes, there would be some things going on with students. It wouldn't be where teachers just have it off. What we were saying was that we give teachers, because if you think students coming right back from a Christmas break and not having that time to, and teachers not having that time to get prepared for that second semester, the students and teachers will be in contact. But what we said is, because we will be starting a new week, starting a week where we can have a whole week with students, we're going to be putting students on track A and track B, and we want them to have a full week instead of having 2 days, and then they take a day off, and then we have to start a new group when they haven't gotten a full week. We want to make sure they have a full week starting out, especially the first time they'll be back face to face, starting in the school and haven't been there this year. And it'll be brand new teachers and, all those types of things.
And I just want to add, it's difficult to transition students back, even when they've been in school all year, coming back from that semester. So to bring them in December, I mean, you're asking for a very challenging time. Then to come in January and only have them there 2 days, it's not practical with the students. Thinking outside of we want to get them back in, but is it practical? How are they going to react to going to school for 2 days and they've been out for this amount of time? So they do need that clean break and then coming in for a full week so that they can adjust themselves.
Secondary.
That's secondary.
This is just secondary. Elementary is in school.
I think this makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Good evening. And for elementary, they will not be at home not doing anything. It will be a virtual online day for our elementary students. So all students will start on the 11th with a full week of instruction.
Because they don't end this semester.
Right.
They just carry it out.
And the 11th is a deep cleaning day, remote learning day, district-wide K-12. So we would hate for kids to be out of school for almost 2 weeks, come back for 2 days. Eight. The 8th. We would hate for, it just doesn't seem practical to have students out for about 2 weeks, get them back in, used to routines for 2 days. Then they'll have Friday off. So we'll start clean K-12 January 11th.
And I want to reiterate with secondary, it won't be teachers just off and students off. We will be making contact with students during that time and so forth. They just will not be face to face in the building. So I want to make that clear.
And it took about 3 weeks, am I right, when we did the pre-K, K3, 4, 5 to get buses, lunches, schedules, who's in group A, who's in group B. And if we make that decision tonight, that will allow us to move forward on how we start figuring out who's coming back, who needs a bus, just like we did with elementary. Chad, you want to speak to the start date?
Yes, so the start date, once again, will be the 11th. So there will be a modified schedule, and we will definitely get that schedule to you as soon as it's 100% created, but there will be a modified schedule, just like similar to elementary school, because as you know, once we bring in secondary, you want to have everybody on the road as far as buses, and so maybe a piece where we have to start at 7:30 like we normally would, because I know elementary starts at 8:15. So you're going to see that as well, but it will be modified, and we'll work from there.
And remember, under Plan B, you still have the same how many you can put on the bus. You're not in Plan A, so we still can only put 20 to 22 on a bus. That's going to create, it's going to take some time to schedule these bus routes, because now you're pulling in everyone from, you're doing K-13, so it's going to be totally different now.
And I would like to say also, we asked the question in the survey about who would need bus transportation, and it was around 50% right now. So it's more than what even the elementary school. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at this point.
The next slide is nothing more than the Plan B. It's going to look just like the K-5. You're going to have 2 groups. You're still going to have a virtual group. It's going to mimic the same one. Any questions?
I just have one, Mr. Chair. A lot of hard work has gone into this plan, and I like what I'm seeing. I like the dates I'm seeing. I just want to be assured that the parents and students that do decide to remain virtual are going to be compensated fairly, and making sure that classes are recorded so parents have the opportunity to work when they get home with their students, and that students are not pressured to feel they have to be face-to-face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Everything will be fair. Everything, students that are virtual will be taught just like students that are face-to-face. That's what we're working through with our PD right now, so that all of that can work. So there will not be discrepancies on purpose that will happen. We will try to treat each student fairly.
Thank you. I'm getting some wonderful reports of excellent work with our teachers doing virtual, but it's an adjustment for everybody. Thank you.
Any other questions by any board member?
I'm going to make mention of, remember the issue we had with K3 when it came, one had more weeks than the other one. If we went to this January 6, 7, 8, you're going to have the same problem again. You're going to have a group that's been in school 2 more days than the original group, and we're going to be overloaded again. That's why we're trying to start at an even pace to be able to, so we would have I call it in-person classes, and it would be equal. If I'm right, we have more days second semester than first semester, because we have a smaller first semester based on us getting out at Christmas. So we'll have the days second semester better than what we did first semester.
Anybody got any more questions? I don't see a reason to vote on this in the work session, because it's in the regular meeting agenda where the board will vote then.
Do you want us to present this same slide during open session tonight? Or you just want to vote on it when it's up? Rod, am I asking the right question?
Yeah, you're asking the right question, but I think that at least when you and I discussed it, they wouldn't repeat the presentation again. This was the opportunity for the board to hear it and ask their questions. And then the only thing they would do in open session tonight would just be to get a motion to approve it, and to, because the public, obviously, if they were interested, could have, participated during the work session.
All right. This time I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 318.111A and 1A3 and A6, and to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel file under General Statute 115C 321. To consider matters related to initial employment of an individual employee, to prevent the disclosure of confidential student records under General Statute 115C 402, and also to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Motion by Mr. Sharp. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Visit. Do the roll call. Ms. Chavis?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Aye. Mr. Visit?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Dunton?
I support.
Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Silver,
Yes.
Ms. Washington,
Yes.
Ms. E. Bullock,
Yes.
Ms. S. Bullock, Ms. S. Bullock. Motion carried. We will now go to closed session.
Railroad, can you?
They do closed session in here. And yes, that is on.
If I can share my screen.
You can, there's actually a desk in the room, so why did they?